A quiet evening at their large house is interrupted by the ringing of the phone. Their father, Taeyong, stares at the screen. His usually calm face turns serious. He picks up the receiver. Hello? The voice on the phone is soft and polite. It's Mr. Chang. Lian only hears one side of the conversation. Dad says briefly, Yes, I understand. She's sitting with her mother, Nia, on the couch. They're watching a movie, but Nia's no longer looking at the screen. She's looking at her husband. Her body is tense. Taeyong puts his phone down. The room is quiet. Only the credits scroll across the screen. It was Chan, he says. He's proposing a meeting. He says he wants peace. He wants to end all disputes. He's proposing dinner in a restaurant with all the families. Nia exhales slowly. Peace? Now? There was disbelief in her voice. Do you believe him? Taeyong walks to the window. He looks out at the dark street. I don't know, but everyone's tired of fighting. We're wasting time, wasting energy. He's talking about the future, about making sure our children don't have to see this feud. He turns around. His gaze falls on Lian. He looks at her, and his eyes soften a little. Lian snuggles into her mother. She doesn't understand all the words, but she understands the word children. That's her. He named the restaurant Golden Garden. It's a neutral place. Lots of people. It'll be safe, Taeyong says. Safe? Nia shakes her head. Are you sure about that? I'm confident in my discretion, he replies firmly. It's just a conversation. We'll hear it out. Just once. They look at each other silently. Lian sees their eyes speak without words. Mom purses her lips slightly. Dad nods slowly. They have an agreement. Nia says quietly, one time, just one chance. Taeyeon picks up her phone again to call back and agree. Lian feels the air in the room grow heavy. The cheerful movie no longer seems so cheerful. She tugs at her mother's hand. Mom, are we going to a restaurant? Yes, darling, we're all going. We'll just eat with the other people. Everything will be fine, Nia says. She strokes Lian's head, her golden curls, but her hand is shaking. Just a little. Lian can feel it. The next day, everyone is talking about the meeting. But they say little and somehow cautiously. Dad goes into the office and talks on the phone in a quiet voice. Mom goes through the dresses in the closet. She tries on one, then another. She's never spent so long choosing clothes. Lian, isn't it too bright? Isn't it too severe? She asks, her voice oddly worried. You're beautiful in any way, Mom, Lian says. Nia smiles, but it's a quick, joyless smile. She chooses an elegant blue dress. That evening at dinner, everyone is silent. Dad eats and thinks about his own things. Mom picks at her food with her fork. What if it's a trap? Nia suddenly asks. What if they're up to something? Taeyong puts down his fork. He looks at his plate, then at his wife, then at his daughter. Then they're fools. Public place. Witnesses. No, they won't risk it so openly. They want to talk. I think Chan's just tired. He's looking for a way out. I want to give him this chance. I want to believe. For the sake of a peaceful life. For her. He nods toward Lian. Lian looks at him with her wide eyes. Dad wants peace because of her. That sounds important. I'm still scared, Nia whispers. Me too, Taeyong suddenly admits. But sometimes you have to take the first step. Otherwise, we'll never stop. Before bed, Dad comes to Lian. He sits on the bed. His big hand feels gentle. Tomorrow evening, be a good girl. Sit next to your mother. Eat what they give you. Don't be capricious. There will be a boy there, Mr. Chang's son. You can say hello to him. Is he any good? Lian asks. Dad thinks for a second. I don't know. I hope so. Sleep, my girl. He kisses her and leaves. Lian lies in the dark. She thinks about the boy she'll have to say hello to. She doesn't want to. She wants to stay home. But she promised her dad she'd be good. The Golden Garden restaurant is bright and quiet. Everyone speaks quietly. White tablecloths cover the tables, and crystal sparkles. The Chan family is already seated at the table. Mr. Chan stands up and smiles. He is short, wears glasses, and has a broad grin. His wife, Mrs. Chan, smiles even wider. She has a neat hairstyle and small hands. Their son sits hunched over. He stares at the plate in front of him, not raising his head. Everyone greets them. Handshakes, slight bows. Dad remains calm. Mom smiles her beautiful smile. Lian hides a little behind her. They sat down. The adults began to talk about the weather and their work. Their voices were polite and calm. The waiter brought menus. Lian chose a juice. The waiter placed a tall glass in front of her. The conversation flows smoothly. Mr. Chang jokes. Dad smiles back. Everything seems normal. And then Leon sees it. She reaches for a napkin and accidentally looks up. Mrs. Chang's gaze is fixed on her glass of juice. She doesn't look at her husband, doesn't look at Nia. She's looking at Leon's glass. Her eyes are wide open. There's no smile in them. There's a strange, intense focus there. She's looking as if she's waiting for the glass to speak. Leanne freezes. Her hand, holding the napkin, freezes in midair. Mrs. Chang stares at the glass for another second, two. Then she seems to catch herself. She abruptly averts her gaze and turns to Nia, smiling her porcelain smile again. "Nia, you look absolutely wonderful," she says in a clear voice. But Leanne isn't listening anymore. She's looking at her glass, a simple glass of orange juice. Nothing special about it. Why were they looking at it like that? She slowly moves the glass away from her. Just a little. She suddenly doesn't want to drink from it. She feels a slight chill inside, even though the restaurant is warm. Nia and Taeyeon didn't notice anything. They were talking with Mr. Chang. Leanne was silent. She simply looked at her glass and thought about that strange, heavy gaze. Waiters start bringing food, salads and appetizers arrive. The adults eat, and conversation becomes louder and more relaxed. Even Dad seems more relaxed. Mr. Chang raises his hand and gives the head waiter a barely perceptible nod. Almost imperceptible, just a slight movement of his chin. The waiter immediately approaches. He leans over, and Mr. Chang whispers something in his ear. The waiter nods quickly and heads to the kitchen. A few minutes later, he returns. He carries a large platter covered with a silver lid. He places it in the center of the table with a solemn air. "A special dish from the chef," he announces, "prepared according to Mr. Chan's family recipe, for our most honored guests only." He lifts the lid. A thick, aromatic stew steams beneath. Meat, vegetables, unfamiliar spices. "Oh, this is our signature delicacy," exclaims Mrs. Jong, clapping her hands. "The chef personally prepared it. You must definitely try it. Especially you, Taeyeon. This is a power dish." She looks at Leon's father with delight. Mr. Chang smiles, ladling the stew into bowls. He serves a large portion to his father, then to his mother. Then he serves some to himself and his wife. He gives his son some too, but only a small amount. A plate of stew is placed in front of Leanne. "And for the young lady," Mr. Chang says, winking at her. Leanne looks at her plate. Steam rises from the thick sauce. It smells strange and strong. She doesn't want to eat it. She doesn't like the smell. And she doesn't like the way the waiter nodded to Mr. Chang, quietly, in his own way, as if they knew something the others didn't. She quietly pushes the plate away. "Leanne, eat. It's very tasty," Nia says softly, noticing her gesture. "I don't want it," Leon says in a typically petulant, childish voice. She wrinkles her nose. "I don't like the smell. I want pasta, plain pasta with cheese." There's a moment of awkward silence at the table. Mrs. Chang's smile fades. "But this is a special dish, my dear," she says, a metallic tint creeping into her voice. "The chef worked hard," Taeyong says quickly, nodding to the Chans. "She can be naughty sometimes. Leon, don't be capricious." "But I don't want the stew," Leon insists, feeling a real tantrum brewing. She hadn't planned on being so capricious, but the fear and dislike of this food are real. "I want pasta. I won't eat it." She crosses her arms over her chest, looking hurt and stubborn. Nia looks at her with mild reproach, but then her gaze softens. She shrugs and turns to the Chans with an apologetic smile. "Sorry, that's true sometimes. She's in a bad mood today. We'd better order her some pasta so as not to ruin the evening." Mr. Chan waves his hand, feigning ease. Never mind. Childish tastes. Of course, we'll order pasta for the princess." He gestures to the waiter, who takes the plate of stew away from Leanne. Mrs. Chang watches this action. Her face becomes smooth and smiling again, but her eyes stop for a second on the plate being removed. Something flashes in them, quick as a flash. Annoyance? Disappointment? Leon doesn't have time to figure it out. The Chanov boy, their son, has been silent this whole time, and he's silent now. He's not eating his stew. He's just moving it around his plate with his fork. Doesn't he want to eat it either? But he says nothing. He just sits there, head down, as if trying to become invisible. Leon gets her pasta. It's simple, with a white sauce. She begins to eat. The food is normal, but the anxiety inside her doesn't go away. She steals a glance at the boy's plate. At the full plate of that special stew, he won't touch. Dinner continues. The adults speak louder and laugh. It seems the ice has melted. Taeyong even smiles genuinely a couple of times. Nia has relaxed and is cheerfully arguing with Mr. Chan. Dessert arrives. A large cake, beautifully decorated with berries. And separately, on a small plate, a few slices of dense dark cake, dusted with powdered sugar. And this one is my personal treat, says Mrs. Chang, her eyes lighting up. My family recipe. Almond pie. You can't miss it. It's magical. She takes the serving spatula. She doesn't let the waiter do it. She gets up herself and goes to Naya first. For the most beautiful woman at the table, she says, placing a huge, disproportionately large piece of pie on Nia's plate. Oh, that's too much, Nia laughs. Nothing of the sort. You must try it. You absolutely must, Mrs. Chang insists. Her voice sounds insistent, almost commanding. She walks up to Taeyong and puts an equally huge piece on him. Taeyong, for strength, try it. It's the best thing you've ever eaten. Taeyong nods politely. He doesn't like sweets. Lian knows that. But he can't refuse. It would be rude. Mrs. Chang serves a small piece each to herself and her husband. She doesn't serve anything to her son. She doesn't even look in his direction. Then she turns to Lian. The ice cream she ordered is already on her plate. And for the little princess? A piece? It's very, very delicious. Mrs. Chang holds out a pie shovel. Her smile is wide, but her eyes are intent again, like they were when she was staring at the glass. Lian quickly shakes her head, her golden curls flying. No thanks. I have ice cream. I don't like almonds. But you haven't even tried it, Mrs. Chong's voice sounds unnaturally high-pitched. One piece, right now. Try it. Her insistence becomes harsh. Even the adults notice. Taeyeon frowns. Nia looks at Mrs. Zhang in surprise. If she doesn't want to, then don't worry, Nia says softly but firmly. Let her eat ice cream. Mrs. Chang freezes, spatula in hand. She looks at Lian, then at her parents. Then her face breaks into a smile again, but now it seems forced, like a mask. Of course! Of course! What a pity! It's so delicious, she mutters, and finally returns to her seat. Lian eats her ice cream and looks at her parents' plates. At those huge slices of pie they were so insistently handed. She feels uneasy again. Mr. Chang's son still hasn't eaten. He sits with his eyes fixed on the tablecloth. He doesn't speak. He doesn't look at Lian. He doesn't look at his parents. He looks like a mannequin. And your son is so quiet, Nia remarks, trying to engage the boy in conversation. What's your name? The boy slowly raises his head. His eyes are empty, tired. Min, he says quietly, and immediately lowers his head. Min, why aren't you eating the pie? Mrs. Chang asks in her new, sweet voice. You love it. Min silently shakes his head. He's probably shy, Mr. Chang says quickly, clapping his son on the shoulder. Don't pay any attention to him. But Lian sees that Min isn't shy. He's afraid. He's afraid of something at this table. Maybe he's afraid of his parents? Or afraid of this food? Why isn't he eating either the stew or the pie? Lian catches his gaze. Just for a split second. Min looks at her. There's no interest in his eyes. There's something else there. Warning? Helplessness? Then he looks back at the table. The adults don't notice this silent exchange of glances. They're already eating pie. Nia, how is it? Isn't it divine? Asks Mrs. Chan, watching closely as Nia takes a bite. Nia chews, and her face lights up with a surprised smile. Oh, this is really something. Such a rich taste. Taeyong, you have to try it. Taeyong looks at his piece. He reluctantly breaks off a small piece with his fork and pops it into his mouth. He chews slowly. Yes, it's unusual, he says neutrally. Very sweet. Eat it all, eat it. Don't leave it, insists Mrs. Chang. Her eyes glow with a strange glint. It holds all the power of the evening. Taeyong, so as not to offend his hostess, begins to eat. He eats slowly, but finishes his huge piece. Nia also eats almost all of hers. Lian watches them. She sees Mom relax even more, her laughter growing louder. She sees Dad sip water after the last piece of pie, wincing slightly at the sweetness. Anand misses. Chang is watching them. She doesn't take her eyes off them while they eat. Her hands are folded in her lap, and she rocks back and forth slightly, as if impatient. She's waiting for something, waiting for them to finish. And so they finished eating. Mrs. Chang exhales deeply. Her face relaxes completely. An expression of deep, almost blissful relief appears on it. She looks at her husband. Mr. Chang nods to her almost imperceptibly, quietly, with just his eyes. It's done. Leon sees that look, sees that strange relief. Her heart starts beating faster. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. Dinner is drawing to a close. Mr. Chan pays the bill, despite Taeyong's protests. No, no, it's my invitation, as a sign of goodwill, he says, and his smile now seems unchanging, carved from wood. Everyone gets up from the table. The farewells begin, and then the Chan's smiles change. They become more than just polite. They become deafeningly joyful, wide, bright, demonstrative. Such a wonderful evening, Mrs. Chan exclaims, grabbing Nia's hands in her cold ones. I'm so glad we finally understand each other. Yes, a new era is beginning, Mr. Jang thunders, clapping Taeyong on the back. Peace and cooperation. They smile so broadly that the corners of their lips seem about to tear. Their eyes sparkle with an unnatural, jubilant gleam. They say goodbye as if their loved ones were leaving on a long, happy journey and not simply going home after dinner. It's too much, too loud, too happy, too fake. Taeyeon and Nia, well-fed and a little tired, smile back. But their smiles are normal, human. They thank her for the evening. Leanne stands nearby, silently staring at the scene. She looks at Mrs. Chang's radiant face. There's not a trace of the tension there before, only pure, unbridled joy. And that's what's most frightening. Min, their son, simply stands to the side. He doesn't smile. He looks somewhere at the floor. His shoulders are hunched. Finally, everyone emerges outside. Farewell nods, final handshakes. The Chan family heads off in one direction, toward their car. Their voices can be heard for a long time. Mr. Chan's loud, booming laughter. The Leon family walks to their car. The night is quiet and cool. Well, Taeyong says, opening the door. It seems like everything went well. He seems really serious. Nia says hesitantly, getting into the passenger seat. But something was strange at the end. Their joy was somehow feverish. We just had too much to drink. Taeyong waves his hand, starting the engine. Leon buckles herself in the back seat without a word. She doesn't say a word. She simply stares out the dark window and remembers the glance at her glass, the secret nod to the waiter, Ming's full plate, huge slices of pie, jubilant smiles, and the empty, frightened eyes of the boy who never ate a bite. The car pulls smoothly out onto the deserted night road. It's warm inside. The parents begin quietly discussing the details of their conversation. Leon closes her eyes. She's so tired, but inside her, there's a cold, hard lump. She knows for sure that something was wrong, something terribly wrong, and she was the only one who saw it. The car rolls smoothly along the night road. The headlights pick out the asphalt and the scattered trees from the darkness. At first, all three were still reeling from the dinner. Nia turned to Leon with a smile. So, honey, did you like it? At least you ate your pasta, she says. Her voice is a little louder and slower than usual. You're a good girl for being so good, Taeyong adds, looking at the road. He, too, speaks a little slowly. Maybe everything really will work out. They quietly discuss the details of their conversation. The plans Chan mentioned, a possible truce. The parents' voices are calm, even hopeful. Leon is silent. She looks out the window and can't shake the feeling of unease. She wants to go home, just lie in her bed. Oh, my head feels heavy for some reason, Nia suddenly says. She puts her hand to her forehead. I must be tired. Yeah, me too. A strange weakness, Taeyong agrees. He shakes his head slightly, as if trying to shake off the drowsiness. They fall silent. For a few seconds, only the steady hum of the engine can be heard in the cabin. And then Mom stops talking. At all. Leon looks at her. Nia sits with her head leaned back against the headrest. Her eyes are closed. Her mouth is slightly open. Her breathing is even and deep. Mom? Leon calls quietly. There is no answer. Mom, are you sleeping? Leon's voice trembled. Mom doesn't move. She looks like she's fast asleep after a long day. But to fall asleep so suddenly, in a second, that doesn't happen. Nia, Taeyeon says, glancing quickly at his wife. What's wrong with you? He stares at her longer than is appropriate while driving, his expression filled with confusion. Then he slowly turns his gaze back to the road, and at that moment, Leon catches his eye in the rearview mirror. The father looks ahead, but his gaze, it's empty, glassy. He's not looking at the road, but through it. His eyes are wide open, but there's no thought in them, no focus, like a doll's. Daddy, Leon whispers. She's starting to feel scared. A real, icy fear is creeping inside her. Taeyong blinks slowly, very slowly. He tries shaking his head again. His movements become viscous, like thick syrup. Something's wrong, he says heavily. His words are slurred. Leon, buckle up. Tighter. He tries to grip the steering wheel tighter, but his fingers seem to be numb. Leon sees his hands begin to slide. First the left one. The fingers unclench, and the hand slowly, almost gracefully, falls from the steering wheel onto his knee. Then the right one. It slides down the steering wheel and hangs in the air between the seat and the door. The car, left out of control, begins to pull smoothly to the right on its own. First, just a little, then more and more. The right wheels leave the asphalt and onto the dirt shoulder. A dull, rustling rumble is heard. Leon screams. The car shakes. The sound and the jolt seem to bring Taeyong back for a second. With a tremendous effort, as if he were moving a mountain, he raises his right hand and tries to sling it back onto the steering wheel. He almost succeeds. He slightly straightens the car. It finds itself back on the pavement. He is breathing heavily. Sweat is pouring down his forehead. Hold on, he croaks, addressing no one in particular. The car? Himself? Leon! And then his eyes finally roll back. His eyelids slowly close. His hand slips again. This time completely. His body goes limp. His head falls forward, limply, onto his chest. The steering wheel is free again. The car begins to describe a wide, terrifying arc on the road. Leon's heart is pounding so hard she thinks she can hear it throughout the car. Her ears are ringing. She wants to scream at the top of her lungs, but her throat is tight. She sees her father's back in front of her. She sees his head bobbing from the car's jolts. She sees her mother, who is fast and sound asleep in the seat next to her. The car is driving itself. It's speeding along the dark, empty road, and now it's about to crash into a tree or fly off the road. And no one else will help. No one but her. This realization hits like lightning. It drives away the panic. In its place comes something sharp, cold, and clear. She must act. Now. Her fingers find the seatbelt buckle. She presses the button. The click seems deafeningly loud. The belt unbuckles. She doesn't think. She moves. She rises from the back seat and climbs forward, into the space between the two front seats. Her white dress catches on the gear shift. She twitches. The fabric tears with a soft rustle. She makes her way further. She finds herself in the driver's seat. Or rather, not in the driver's seat, but on her father's lap. His massive, heavy body is leaning back against the seat. She is squeezed between the steering wheel and his chest. She feels uncomfortable, cramped, and scared. She grabs the steering wheel. It's thick, cold, and slippery. Her small hands can barely wrap around it. She pulls it toward her. The car, which was listing to the left, begins to right itself, but now it's leveling out too much and starting to drift to the right. Leanne doesn't know the right way. She simply jerks the steering wheel in the opposite direction from where the car is going. Legs. I need to brake. She looks down, under the steering wheel. The pedals are there, but they're out of reach. She's sitting on her dad's lap, her own legs dangling high in the air. She can't even touch the pedal with the toe of her shoe. The car pulls onto the shoulder again. This time, the left one. The bushes crackle. Leon desperately pushes her knees, trying to lift herself higher. Her knee hits the steering wheel, causing it to vibrate. She loses her balance and almost falls onto her dad's chest. The car jerks. Her face is next to her father's. His eyes are closed. His breathing is even and loud. He looks as if he is simply fast asleep after a hard day's work. "Daddy! Daddy, wake up!" She screams right in his ear. "Daddy, help me!" He doesn't react. He doesn't even bat an eyelid. His eyelids seem like stone. She shakes him by the shoulder. His body is heavy and limp, only swaying with her thrusts. He doesn't wake up. Despair rises in her throat again. She is alone, completely alone. She looks at her mother. Nia is sleeping in an unnatural position, leaning toward the door. Her luxurious hair falls over her face. She doesn't move. She doesn't hear her daughter's cries. She's in another world, the world the Chans sent them to with their pie, their special treat. Leanne grits her teeth. No, she won't let them do this. She won't let them put her family to sleep forever. The fear hasn't gone away. It's there, a cold lump in the stomach, but it's no longer paralyzing. It makes my brain work at breakneck speed. She looks at the road. The car is driving almost in the middle. It doesn't seem to be going very fast. Dad must have eased off the gas before he fell asleep. She should just go straight ahead, straight to the house. They're not far. She knows this road. She assesses the situation. She can control the steering wheel, albeit with difficulty. She can't reach the pedals. This means she can't stop. If she stops, she won't be able to move again. She must get home at this speed. She grips the steering wheel again. This time, more firmly. She presses her back against her dad for a more stable position. She stares far ahead, at the strip of light from the headlights. She must steer the car in that strip. The road begins to turn. A slight bend to the right. Leon turns the steering wheel. It's heavy. She has to lean on it with all her weight. The car responds slowly, reluctantly. It pulls to the right edge of the road. Leon pulls the wheel back. Again, that difficult struggle. She can't see the road directly in front of the hood. Her view is blocked by her father's back and shoulder. She can only see what's in the distance. It's like driving through binoculars. Scary. Suddenly, a hole appears in the road. Leon notices it at the last moment. She jerks the steering wheel sharply to the left. The car swerves and skids. Leon, terrified, turns the wheel the other way, trying to regain her balance. The car rocks like a boat on the waves. It zigzags along the empty road. Legs. I need to brake somehow if anything happens. She looks down. The brake pedal. She extends her right leg, tensing every muscle. The tip of her boot barely touches the rubber surface of the pedal. It's not enough. She won't be able to press it. Then she rises up on her knees, bracing her back against the steering wheel. She loses control for a second. The car lurches, but she catches the wheel with her elbow. She bends over and now presses her knee, not her foot, against the brake pedal. Yes, that's better. She can push. She returns to her original position, trembling all over. Now she has at least some control. The ride turns into a nightmare. Every turn is a battle. Every bump is a test. She's soaked with sweat. Her arms ache. Her back is cramped with tension. She cries, but the tears instantly dry on her cheeks with fear. She can't even wipe them away. She can't let go of the steering wheel for a second. She drives like this for what seems like an eternity. The darkness, the road, the heavy steering wheel, the even breathing of her parents. And then, in the distance, around the bend, she sees them. Lights. Not just street lights, but the familiar cluster of lights of their apartment complex. There, over the hill, is their house. A new wave of strength, sharp and burning, passes through her. She's almost home. The road takes the last, sharpest turn before the climb to their house. Leanne starts turning the wheel in advance. She remembers to take the turn smoothly here. She turns, gritting her teeth. The car obediently takes the turn. And then she sees it. Their turn. The narrow asphalt path leading into their yard, lit by an old lantern with cracked glass. Tears well up in my eyes again, this time from relief. She got them there. Now she needs to stop. She looks at the road. It's empty. She takes her right foot off the gas pedal and gently presses her knee on the brake. The car begins to slow. Slowly, smoothly. It pulls up to their usual spot by the porch. The speed is now very low. She presses the brakes harder. The tires squeal softly on the asphalt. The car comes to a complete stop, straight and precise, 2 meters from the garage door. Leanne lets go of the steering wheel. Her hands unclench on their own. They tremble, as if in a fever. She sits on her sleeping father's lap and looks out the windshield at her home. Silence. Absolute silence, broken only by the ticking of the cooling engine and the even breathing of her parents. She did it. Silence. So thick and complete it feels like she can touch it. Leanne sits motionless. She hears the engine cooling, the soft clicks of metal. She hears her heart, now pounding not in her chest but somewhere in her throat, and she hears breathing, the even, deep breathing of her father behind her, and the same breathing of her mother to her right. She did it. The car is standing still. She didn't hit anything. Everyone is safe. She carefully unclenches her fingers. They've been gripping the wheel for so long that they refuse to relax. They're as stiff as claws. She looks at her small, pale hands on the dark leather steering wheel. They're streaked red from the effort. The fear fades. It recedes like water, leaving behind an emptiness and a strange lightness throughout her body. She feels very tired. So tired that she wants to fall asleep right then and there, like her parents. But she can't. She has to wake them up. She has to tell them what happened. She slowly, as if through cotton wool, turns her head and looks at her dad. His face is peaceful, calm. She touches his cheek. It is warm. "Dad," she whispers, and her voice is hoarse, alien. "Dad, we're home." He doesn't answer. She gently shakes his shoulder. "Dad!" Taeyong lets out a low moan, deep, as if coming from his chest. His eyelids flutter. He slowly, very slowly opens them. He stares straight ahead, but his gaze is dull, unseeing. He looks at the windshield, at the familiar facade of his house, but he doesn't seem to understand what he sees. He blinks. Once. Twice. He tries to move his head, but it's heavy, unruly. What? He breathes out in one word. His tongue gets slurred. He tries to figure out where he is. He feels a weight on his lap. He looks down and sees golden hair. His daughter's hair. She's sitting on his lap. Why? He looks at his hands. They are resting on his lap. Why aren't they on the steering wheel? Slowly, as if through a thick fog, consciousness returns to him. It is pieced together from fragments. A restaurant. Dinner. Bright light. Voices. The sweet taste of pie. A heaviness in his head. Lee N. He pronounces her name with difficulty, syllable by syllable. He looks up at the steering wheel, at the small child's hands still resting on it, and then he sees everything. The position of the car, the house, his daughter at the wheel. Horror, cold and sharp, pierces him, chasing away the last of his sleep. He tries to sit up straight, too quickly, and hits his head on the headrest. What happened? His voice is hoarse, but already loud, full of panic. His sudden movement and cry seemed to shatter the silence. Naya's entire body shuddered. She let out a short, broken cry, as if in sudden pain. She opens her eyes. They're wide, filled with animal fear and confusion. Her gaze darts around the cabin, not recognizing him for a second. What? Where are we? What happened? She says quickly, breathlessly. She grabs the door handle as if she wants to jump. Her gaze falls on her husband, on his pale, horror-contorted face, then on her daughter, who is sitting between them. Leanne, baby, what? Why are you there? Why are we home? She reaches for it, but the seatbelt holds her back. She unbuckles it with a desperate click. Leanne slowly, very slowly, crawls off her father's lap and back to her place in the back seat. Her movements are stiff, like a doll's. She feels her entire body ache with tension. She sits up and looks at her parents. They turn to face her, their faces pale, their eyes wide. They are waiting for an explanation. And she begins to speak. Her voice is quiet, even, without emotion. She simply states the facts, as if she were recounting what happened at school. You both fell asleep, in the car. First you, Mom, then Dad. His hands fell off the wheel. The car started moving on its own. It was veering off the road. She pauses briefly, looking at their absolutely shocked faces. I had to climb up front. I sat on Dad's lap and drove the car all the way home. She says it so simply. I drove the car, as if she were saying, I ate ice cream. I couldn't reach the pedals with my feet. That's why I couldn't stop earlier. I braked with my knee. I got us here and stopped. She finishes and looks at them. Her large eyes are dry. All the energy, all the adrenaline that kept her afloat is gone. Now she's just a very small and very tired girl in a torn dress. Nia and Taeyeon don't move. They stare at her, as if they can't hear her, as if she said it in an unfamiliar language. Taeyong's jaw drops. He slowly looks from his daughter to the steering wheel, to his own empty hands, to the road outside the window. He mentally relives the journey, the dark highway, the turns, the shoulders, his daughter, his 10-year-old Leon. She was driving. Nia is also silent. Her lips move soundlessly. She looks at her daughter's hands. Leon is still sitting, her hands folded in her lap. Her fingers tremble slightly. Nia sees these slender, childish fingers that just recently held the steering wheel of a 2-ton car on the night road. She looks at her face, at her serious, mature eyes. There's no hysteria in them, no fear now, only fatigue and the question, do you understand me? This look, this composure after such horror, that's the most terrifying thing. It proves that it's all true. This isn't a dream. This isn't a joke. The air in the car turns icy. The silence presses on the ears. Taeyong looks away from his daughter. He stares into space. His brain, still foggy, begins to work at breakneck speed, burning away the last of his drowsiness. Dinner, restaurant, the Chang family, polite smiles, too polite, special stew, for dear guests only. Leon refused. She was being capricious. They apologized for her. Then dessert, almond pie. Point, Mrs. Chang, her persistence, her sparkling eyes. Right now! Try it! Huge pieces. He finished his, even though he doesn't like sweets. Nia finished it. Pleasant heaviness, weakness. The way home, he clutches his head, literally digging his fingers into his hair. His face contorts not from pain, but from a flood of realization. It's so clear, so monstrous, that for a second it takes his breath away. Pie, he breathes hoarsely. It was pie. Nia looks at him. She sees his expression change, from shock to bewilderment, from bewilderment to surmise, and from surmise to chilling, bottomless horror. And her own memories begin to line up. She was so insistent that we eat it, Nia whispers. Right there, right away. She watched us eat. The stew, Leon says quietly. They turn to her. I didn't eat the stew. The boy, Min, he didn't eat it either. He didn't even touch it. And he didn't eat the pie. Her simple words fall like the last drops of water filling a cup. All the puzzle pieces fall into place with a bang. A special invitation. Neutral territory. A public place where everyone will feel safe. A treat they can't refuse out of politeness. Different for the adults and the child? No. The same. Both the stew and the pie were served to everyone. But their son didn't eat it. Did he know? Was he afraid? And Leanne refused. First the stew, simply because she didn't like the smell. Then the pie, because she didn't like her persistent aunt. A child's whim, a picky child. This childish whim saved their lives. They slipped us something, Nia says quietly. Her voice trembled. In our food, to make us fall asleep at the wheel, to make us crash, to make it look like an accident. A tired family, falling asleep on the road after dinner. She can't finish. Horror makes her throat tighten. Taeyong nods. His face now resembles a stone mask. Only his eyes are alive. Cold, furious lights dance in them. An accident, he says, uttering his wife's words. A public dinner. Everyone sees that we're on good terms. Then we leave. And disappear. The whole family. No witnesses. No questions. No heirs who could ask questions. A clean, orderly elimination. He says this in a level, methodical voice, as if analyzing a competitor's business plan. But there's a deadly chill in every word. They wanted to get rid of everyone. Him, Naya, and Leon. Clear the field completely. The pie was for him and Naya. And the stew? The stew was for Leon, in case she wasn't offered dessert or refused. They thought through both options. They wanted to be sure the girl would fall asleep too. But they didn't take her character into account. Her reluctance is unfamiliar. Her stubbornness. You saw everything? Nia asks her daughter, a silent question in her voice. Did you notice something? Leon nods. She feels small again, but this time not from fear but from exhaustion. Ms. Chang looked at my glass of juice very strangely, for a long, long time. Then she looked at the pie the same way when she offered it to me. Her eyes were scary. And the boy, Min, he was silent the whole time and didn't eat. He was afraid. She says it so simply. To her, they were just pieces of a strange picture that didn't fit together, but she remembered them. Taeyong looks at his daughter. This child who noticed what he hadn't, always vigilant, always cautious. He was blinded by the possibility of peace, by hope, and she, his little girl, simply looked around and saw the truth. They hadn't taken Leon into account. They thought of her as an appendage to their parents, a cute appendage who would eat what they gave her. They didn't know she had his composure and her mother's observation. They didn't know she was capable of such a thing. The Leon factor, the unforeseen variable that ruined everything. Taeyong unbuckles his seatbelt. The movement is sharp, precise. He opens the door and steps out of the car. The night greets him with cold air. He stands next to the car, his back straight, his arms at his sides. He doesn't move. He simply stares into the darkness. But Leanne and Nia see. They see how his shoulders tense, how his fists clench, how his face, against the light from the car, becomes completely expressionless, and that makes it even more terrifying. This isn't hot rage. This is a quiet, absolute, chilling anger. The anger of a man who hasn't simply been deceived. The anger of a father whose family has been attacked. His daughter. He says nothing. He doesn't punch the car. He doesn't scream. He just stands there. But this silent figure exudes such danger, such an inhuman, cold fury, that even the air around him seems to freeze. The house, their warm, cozy home, where laughter and conversations about the future should now be heard, suddenly became very cold. The cold crept in from the car, from this night, from Taeyong's heart. Nia also gets out of the car. Her legs give way, and she grabs the door for a second to steady herself. She walks around the car and swings open the back door. Leon sits there, still small and quiet. Nia looks at her torn dress, at her tangled golden hair, at her large, serious eyes that have seen too much for 10 years. And then everything inside her breaks. Reticence, shock, horror. Everything crumbles under one simple thought. She could have lost her. Not just could. She had to lose her. According to the Chan's plan, her daughter wouldn't be sitting here now. She wouldn't exist. With a quiet sob, Nia leans over, climbs into the back seat, and hugs Lian. She hugs her tighter, more fiercely than she's ever hugged her in her life. She holds her close, feels the warmth of her small body, the scent of her hair. I'm sorry, my girl, she whispers through the sobs that finally break free. I was so scared. I love you so much. You saved us. You saved us all. Her tears are hot and salty. They drip onto Lian's hair, onto her shoulder. Lian freezes at first, then slowly hugs her mother back. She cuddles close, and only now, in this strong, loving embrace, do quiet, silent tears begin to roll down her own cheeks. Not from fear for herself, but from the fact that it's over, that they're home, that mom and dad are alive, and that she, Lian, was able to bring them here. The embrace lasts a long time. Nia finally lets go of Lian, but doesn't move away. She strokes her head, her hair wet with tears, unable to stop touching her. Taeyong is still standing outside, his figure a dark, motionless silhouette against the light from the open car doors. He turns and looks at them. His face is in shadow, but they feel his gaze. He approaches the back door. His movements are once again focused, precise, like before dinner. He leans over and looks at them, first at his wife, then at his daughter. There's no longer that stony mask in his eyes. There's determination there now, cold, clear, like a blade. Let's go inside the house, he says quietly, but in such a way that you won't dare disobey. Right now. He helps them out. His hand, as he takes Lian's elbow, is firm and confident. He leads them to the front door, not glancing back at the car, which remains with its doors open in the middle of the yard. The hallway smells like home, cleanliness, wood, comfort. But today, the scent isn't comforting. It feels foreign. Taeyong takes off his coat and hangs it on a hook. Every movement is slow, deliberate. Then he takes his phone out of his inside pocket. Not the one for regular calls, but a different one, simpler, with a small screen. He swipes his finger across the screen, finds the number he needs, and brings the phone to his ear. The call doesn't last long. The other end answers almost immediately. No greeting is offered. Taeyong says. His voice is low, even, without a single emotion. Urgent. Immediately. He pauses briefly, giving the person on the other end time to adjust. There was a meeting. The Golden Garden restaurant. Tonight. With the Chan family. A full investigation is needed. The chef, the waiters, everyone who had access to the kitchen or our table, especially the food and drinks. Find the weak links. Find out who took what. He speaks in short, clipped sentences. Every word is an instruction. Second, the Chang family themselves. Where are they now? What are they doing? Who have they been in contact with for the last 2 hours? Find their son. Find out where he is and what condition he's in. Quiet. Clear. We need clarity by morning. Understood? He listens for a second, then nods, although his interlocutor cannot see him. Yes. This is an assassination attempt. On everyone. Carry it out. He hangs up. The hang-up sound clicks into the silence of the hallway. He doesn't explain or comment on his call. He simply lowers the phone and looks at his women. They stand in the middle of the hallway, Lian pressed against Nia. They heard every word. Taeyong approaches them. He stops in front of Lian. He doesn't bend down, doesn't try to stoop to her level, as he usually does. He looks down at her, but there's no condescension in that gaze. There's appreciation and respect. Did you tell everything exactly? He asks. Did you miss anything? Lian looks at him, her eyes wide. She's thinking, remembering. Then she nods slowly. Yes, that's exactly how it was. Weren't you scared when you took the wheel? Lian thinks, her lips trembling. I was scared, very scared. But screaming was useless. You wouldn't have woken up, so I had to act. These simple, childish words contain the ironclad logic of an adult in an extreme situation. Screaming was useless, so I had to act. Taeyeon exchanges a glance with Nia. It's a look of complete understanding. Their daughter isn't just a child. She's demonstrated the qualities they value most: composure, determination, the ability to analyze and act under pressure. Nia draws Lian close again. She looks at her face as if seeing it for the first time. She sees more than just her little girl's sweet features. She sees the strong jawline inherited from her father, the stubborn arch of her brows, her own, and the eyes. Large, dark eyes that today had seen death face to face and had not flinched. "My brave, smart girl," Nia whispers. She says it not as an affectionate nickname, but as a statement of fact, as a title. Taeyong places his large, intricately tattooed hand on Leon's head. It's a heavy, weighty gesture. "You did the right thing," he says. "You saved our family. Never doubt it. And never doubt that we know it." There's no paternal gentleness in his voice. There's a formal, almost businesslike recognition of her accomplishments. Like an equal, he speaks to her not as a child, but as someone who has been through a trial and persevered. Leon looks at them both. She feels like something has changed. Forever. Mom and Dad look at her differently. They no longer look down on her. They look at her, almost on the same level, one might say. In their gazes, there is gratitude, pride, and a new trust. A trust that was previously only possible between the two of them. She understands that she has crossed some invisible line, from the world of children to be protected, to the world of those who can protect. She is still their daughter. She is still little. But after tonight, she is more than just a child to them. She is a hero. She is part of their strength. Taeyong pulls his hand away. "Now both of you, listen to me carefully," he says, his voice taking on a commanding tone. "What happened tonight stays in this room, within these walls. No one, Yavir, must know about it. Understood?" He looks at Nia, then at Leon. "No friends, no relatives, no casual acquaintances. Not a single living soul outside this house. We were at dinner. Everything went well. We took a taxi home because I'd had too much to drink. I left the car in the city. I'll sort it out tomorrow morning. That's our story, unique and unshakable." Nia nods immediately. She understands. Any leak, any hint that their plan had failed, would put the Chans in a cornered position. They would either try again, this time in a different, more brutal way, or they would begin covering their tracks, destroying evidence and witnesses. Silence is their shield, and their weapon. Let Chan think everything went according to plan. Let him wait for news of the terrible accident. While he waits, Taeyong will act. "Leon," Taeyeon turns to her daughter, "this is the most important rule you'll ever have to follow. Can you tell me about our dinner? The restaurant? The food?" "Yes," Leon says quietly. "And what about what happened after? About the way home? About the car?" Leon shakes her head silently. Taeyong says sternly, "Even if it's really scary or really hard, even if you have a nightmare, you come to us. Only to us. We'll get through this together, but not a word to the outside world. This is our secret. Our family's secret. Our strength. Do you swear?" He doesn't demand a solemn oath. He simply asks. But his question conveys the full gravity of their new, dangerous world, which Leanne has just entered. Leanne looks at his serious face, at her mother's tense expression. She understands. This isn't a game. This is a rule of survival. She remembers the cold steering wheel in her hands, the dark road, the breathing of her sleeping parents. This is her secret, their shared secret. "I swear," she whispers. Her voice is quiet but firm. "I won't tell anyone." Taeyong nods. "Enough. Okay, it's all over for today. Let's go. You," he turns to Leanne, "go to bed. You," he looks at Nia, "help her. I'll check all the doors and windows." He doesn't say, "I'll stand guard," but it's implied. No one in this house will sleep peacefully tonight except Leon. He'll make sure of that. Nia takes Leanne's hand and leads her upstairs to her room. The usual evening ritual, washing up, changing into pajamas, now seems unreal, far removed from what just happened. Leanne silently carries out all the actions. She feels exhausted. Her arms and back ache from the unaccustomed tension. Her eyes are sticking together. Nia lays her down in bed, adjusting the blanket. She sits on the edge, just like Taeyong did the day before. She simply looks at her daughter for a long time, stroking her hand. "I'm so proud of you," she says finally. Her voice breaks. I don't even know how to express it. You were incredible. Just remember, no matter what happens, we now know what you're capable of, and we'll always be here for you. Always." She kisses Leanne on the forehead and leaves, leaving the door ajar. The house is quiet, but before Leanne falls asleep, she hears her father's quiet, measured footsteps downstairs. He's pacing the first floor, checking, guarding. Sunlight filters through the cracks in the curtains. It creeps across the carpet and touches the bed. Leon opens her eyes. The first feeling is relief. She's in her room, on her bed, the familiar ceiling with a tiny crack in the corner. Then the memory returns, not all at once, but in chunks. Bright flashes, the dark road, the shaking steering wheel, Dad's heavy breathing. And earlier, the Chan's smiles, a glass of juice, a piercing gaze. She lies motionless, listening to the house. Silence. But not the deep nighttime silence from the car, but the morning silence, the silence of home. Somewhere in the distance, a clock ticks. The discreet clatter of dishes can be heard in the kitchen downstairs. She sits up, her body aches. The muscles in her arms and back ache, as if after a long workout. She looks at her palms. Light red marks from the steering wheel are still visible on them. She gets up and goes to the bathroom. She washes her face with cold water. She looks in the mirror. The same girl with golden curls and big eyes. But inside she feels different. Older. More serious. As if she's lived not a few hours, but several years in one night. She dresses in simple jeans and a sweater. Not a dress. Today, she wants something comfortable and covered. She goes downstairs. The kitchen smells of coffee and toast. Mom and Dad are sitting at the table. They're already dressed. Dad is wearing dark lounge clothes. Mom is in simple trousers and a sweater, her hair pulled back into a ponytail. On the table sits a nearly untouched plate of toast and cups of coffee. They don't talk, they just sit. But it's not an awkward silence. It's tense, focused. They both look out the window, but their thoughts are clearly elsewhere. When Leon enters, they turn around. Their gazes become sharp and assessing for a moment, as if checking to see if she's okay. Then Mom smiles. It's a tired smile, but it's real. "Good morning, sunshine. How did you sleep?" "It's fine," Leon says quietly, and sits down in her seat. Nia gets up to pour her some juice and warm up some toast. The movements are habitual, automatic, but there's a slight awkwardness between them. It's as if the three of them are performing the play An Ordinary Morning, and everyone is trying very hard not to make any mistakes. Taeyong takes a sip of coffee. He looks not at Leon, but at his cup. His face is calm, but there are dark circles under his eyes. He has barely slept. "They'll pick up the car in an hour," he says, addressing the table as a whole. "I'll tell them I left it in town and lost the keys. They'll sort everything out." He says this in a calm, businesslike tone. Nia nods silently. Leon is silent too. She understands that this is part of their new legend, a story for the outside world. There's silence at the table. Not a terrible silence, but a heavy one. Everyone is lost in their own thoughts. Leon picks at her toast with her fork. She's not hungry. Then Taeyong pushes back his chair. He stands up and leaves the kitchen without a word. He returns a minute later. He's holding a book, not a children's book with pictures. An adult book with a hard, dark blue cover, no pictures, just the title, embossed in silver letters. It looks serious and boring. He places the book on the table in front of Leanne. "Here, you can read it if you want. About the structure of various mechanisms, including cars," he says simply. He doesn't say, "This is for saving our lives." He doesn't say, "You should study this." He simply gives her a book. A serious, adult book, one he could read himself. This gesture speaks more than 1,000 words. He acknowledges her new status. He offers her knowledge. Not entertainment, but knowledge. Leon looks at the book. Then she looks up at her father. He looks at her, and there's no condescension in his gaze. There's a challenge. "Can you handle it?" "Thank you, Dad," she says, carefully touching the cover. The leather cover is cool and smooth. Nia watches this silently. Then she stands up too. She goes to the refrigerator, opens it, and takes out a small glass bowl. Inside are washed berries, strawberries and raspberries, Liana's favorite. They're out of season. They must have been brought in specially. She places the bowl next to the book, so that reading wouldn't be so boring, says Nia, and there's a warm, lively note in her voice that slightly breaks the ice in the room. It's a simple maternal gesture, caring, but placed next to her father's serious book, this bowl of berries becomes something more. It's balance, an acknowledgement. You've grown up, we see strength in you, but you're still our girl, and we care about you. Leon looks at the book and the berries, at her father's challenge and her mother's caress. She feels the lump in her throat that has been there since last night slowly begin to melt. "Thank you, Mom," she whispers. She takes one berry. It's sweet and cold, the taste of normality, the taste of life going on, no matter how strange it may now be. Breakfast continues in silence. But there's less tension now. There's a quiet, shared understanding. They've weathered the storm. Now there's a calm. They're gathered around the table, wounded, tired, but together. And this simple fact, they're together at the table, is more powerful than any words. After breakfast, Taeyeon goes to his office. Through the closed door, quiet, brief phone conversations can be heard. Nia is washing the dishes. Leon takes a book and a bowl of berries and goes into the living room. She sits in a large armchair by the window, where the sun shines. She opens the book. The pages smell of printer's ink and newness. The text is small, full of diagrams and drawings. She begins reading about simple mechanisms, levers, wheels. Then she moves on to the chapter on internal combustion engines. She doesn't understand everything, too many unfamiliar words, but she peers at the diagrams. Here's a piston, here's a crankshaft, here's a clutch. She tries to imagine how it all works inside the car she drove yesterday. Her thoughts returned to the night, to the way she pressed her knee against the brake pedal. The pedal was part of a complex system, now drawn on the page, and she, without realizing it, was interacting with this system. And winning. She puts the book down and looks out the window. Another nondescript car pulled into the yard. Two men in simple work clothes got out. They spoke with Taeyong, who came out to meet them, then got into their car from yesterday and drove away. Everything was quiet, calm, as if that's how it should be. Leon watches this. Before, she would have simply thought, Dad's taking the car in for repairs. Now she sees more. She sees the coordination. She sees how the people arrived quickly and without unnecessary questions. She sees how Dad nods briefly to them, a gesture full of hidden meaning. This is part of a world she had only previously guessed at, her father's world, a world where calls at night lead to action in the morning, a world where enemies offer peace over dinner, then try to put you to sleep forever with dessert. She always knew her father was an important and powerful man, that he had a business that was rarely discussed, that sometimes important people came to see him and they talked behind closed doors. But for her, this was simply the background of her life, something distant, grown up, and unrelated to her. Now it matters, directly and brutally. Her father's enemies have come for her family too, not just for him, for her mother, and for her, and she fought them back. This realization slowly grows within her, like something solid and new. She didn't just end up in the car by chance, and she didn't just instinctively grab the wheel. She demonstrated qualities, observation. She noticed the Chan's odd behavior, stubbornness. She refused their food, composure. She didn't throw a tantrum when her parents fell asleep, decisiveness. She climbed up front and took control, endurance. She drove the heavy vehicle along the dark road, even though she was scared and in pain. She has abilities, abilities she never even knew she had, abilities that, it turns out, can save lives. She looks at her hands, the same hands that held the steering wheel. They seem different to her now, not just the hands of a girl who draws and plays, but an instrument that can act, that can change the course of events. The fear from yesterday hasn't gone away yet. It lurks somewhere deep inside, cold and sticky, but something else now lies on top of it. Not even pride, but knowledge. A firm, unquestionable knowledge of oneself. I can. Her parents' world was complex and dangerous. She saw that clearly now. It contained sweet pies that lulled one to sleep, and friendly smiles that lied. You couldn't trust pretty words. You had to look, you had to think, you had to be prepared. And her own courage, her intelligence, they're part of this world now. Not as a weakness to be protected, but as a strength, as a factor the enemies didn't take into account and which ruined everything. The story isn't over. The car was taken away, breakfast was eaten, but the story has only just begun. Chan thinks they're dead or about to die. Dad is plotting something. It's clear from his face in the late-night calls. They live under a veil of lies about last night, and she, Lian, is no longer just a passenger in this story. She's a participant. She's the keeper of their biggest secret. She's the one who has passed the test and proven she can be a support, not a burden. She picks up the book again, turns the page, starts reading about the transmission. It's still difficult, but now she reads with a new purpose. Not out of curiosity, but to understand, to learn, so that next time, if, God forbid, there is a next time, she knows not only how to turn the wheel intuitively, but also understands what's happening to the car, to be even stronger, even more useful. Sunlight warms her shoulder. The house is quiet. Mom is somewhere upstairs. Dad is in the study, making plans. And she sits in a chair with a book about mechanisms and berries nearby. A 10-year-old girl who yesterday saved her family and this morning discovers that within herself lies a whole universe of untapped abilities, and that her own story, terrible and heroic, has only just turned the first page. She reads, and the words gradually begin to make sense. The piston moves, the crankshaft rotates, energy is transmitted to the wheels. These are no longer just images. This is an explanation of what was beneath her feet and in her hands. Every line she reads makes last night a little more understandable, and therefore a little less terrifying seeing. Taeyong emerges from the office. He walks into the living room, stops, and looks at his daughter, who is buried in a book. He doesn't smile. His gaze is attentive, searching. Do you understand anything? He asks simply. Leanne looks up. She sees him standing in the doorway, tall, powerful, with his usual seriousness on his face. But now she sees something else too. She sees the weariness in the corners of his eyes. She sees the slight stiffness in his shoulder, perhaps from sitting awkwardly in the car for so long. She sees in him not an invincible giant, but a man who can also get tired, who has also been in danger, whom she saved. A little, she answers honestly. It's about how the engine pushes the wheels. I figured out why the steering wheel is so heavy. Taeyong nods slowly. He comes closer, looking at the open page. If you want, we can take some things apart visually. There are some old components in the garage. You can twist them around and see how they work from the inside. This isn't just a proposal. It's an invitation into his world, a world of machines, hardware, and practical knowledge. A world where everything is taken apart, studied, and put back together, but with full understanding. Before a garage was just a place to park a car. Now it can become a workshop, a classroom, a place where the fear of an unknown machine can be dismantled and thereby conquered. I want to, Leon says firmly. He nods again, briefly, as if checking off some internal checklist. My daughter is showing an interest in mechanics. Provide access and materials. Later. I have to run some errands now, he says. His gaze glides over her face, as if reading information. Are you okay? Ready to stay with Mom? He doesn't ask it out loud, but Leanne understands. Okay, Dad, she says. He looks at her for another second, then turns and walks into the hallway. You can hear him putting on his coat, the click of the lock on the front door. Then silence. Leanne returns to her book, but she's no longer reading. She's listening to the house. It seems very large now, and a little empty. The sun still shines through the window, but the shadows in the corners of the room seem deeper. She knows her mother is upstairs. She knows the doors are locked, and the alarm is on. But knowing is one thing, feeling is another. She puts the book on the table and picks up a bowl of berries. She goes upstairs. The door to her room is open. The door to her parents' bedroom is ajar. Leon peers in. Nia sits on the edge of the bed. She holds a photograph in a simple frame, an old one, from her wedding. She stares at it silently, not noticing her daughter in the doorway. Her profile seems vulnerable and sad. For a moment, she looks not like the striking, confident woman, but like someone else, someone who's been deeply frightened. Leon wraps her knuckles on the doorframe. Nia flinches and quickly sets the photograph down on the nightstand, running her hand over her eyes. Leanne, come in, darling. Mom, what are we going to do today? Leon asks, walking in. A typical child's question on an unusual morning. Nia exhales, and her face softens, returning to her usual maternal role. What do you want? We can watch a movie, we can bake something, or just chat. Chat sounded like, discuss everything that happened. But Leon doesn't want to discuss it. Not now. Discussing it would make it real again, bring back that horror. Right now she wants silence, but not the kind in the car, peaceful. Let's bake something, she suggests. Baking is something normal, homemade, something with clear rules. Flour, eggs, sugar, where everything is predictable and safe. Nia smiles, and this time the smile reaches her eyes. Great idea. Let's go down. In the kitchen, they begin making simple cupcakes. Nia takes out the ingredients. Leon helps mix the batter. The movement of their hands, the scent of vanilla, the warm light above the table, all this creates a protective cocoon. They barely speak, they just work together. Mom, Leon says quietly, spooning the dough into the molds. And Min, that boy, will he be okay? She looks up at her mother. Nia freezes, holding the sieve. Her face turns serious. Your dad's already figuring it out. He was in a tough spot. He couldn't refuse food like you. But he tried. He didn't eat anything. That's a way of resisting, too. Silent. We'll do everything we can to make sure he's okay. We won't leave him there. Lian nods. She feels a little better. Min was as much a hostage to the evening as they were, only he had no choice. She's glad Dad is doing something. The cupcakes go into the oven. The smell fills the kitchen. They wash the dishes. Lian, Naya begins carefully, wiping the saucer. You may feel like everything around you has become dangerous, that you can't trust anyone, and that's largely true. But not for everyone. There are people you can rely on. They're few, but they exist. Dad and I are your fortress, and we will never let you find yourself in that situation again. Do you understand? Lian looks at the foam in the sink. She understands, but she also understands that yesterday she was their fortress, and that changes everything. You can't just go back to being a little princess in a tower when you know you can fight. I understand, Mom, she says, but I want to know. I want to understand how everything works, like a machine, so I don't have to be afraid. Nia places the plate on the drying rack. She looks at her daughter with a long, piercing gaze. Then she nods slowly, just as Taeyong had done before. A confession. Then you'll know. We'll teach you. Just promise. Promise to stay our little girl too. At least sometimes. Lian comes over and hugs her. She feels her mother's warmth, the familiar scent of her perfume, now mixed with the scent of vanilla. I promise, she whispers into her mother's sweater. The oven ticks. The sun has moved across the sky. The day continues, strange and new. Lian feels not only the fear of memories growing inside her, but also something solid, like a root, knowledge about herself, about her family, about how the world is not divided into black and white, but into friends and foes, truth and lies, sweet poison and bitter medicine. And now she knows how to distinguish one from the other. She looks out the window at the empty space in the yard where their car used to be. Soon it will be returned. And she, Lian, might get into the passenger seat, but she will look at the road with different eyes. She will know the car's mechanics. She will remember the weight of the steering wheel in her hands. She will see not just the road, but the potential dangers. She will be different. And she and her parents, they're all different now. They'd been through the same ordeal and emerged united, yet changed. Their family's history had taken a sharp, dangerous turn. And the three of them, silently, without further ado, held hands to navigate this turn together, not knowing what lay ahead, but knowing for sure that they were a team, and that on that team was a 10-year-old girl who had already saved them all once, and was ready to do it again, if necessary. The smell of muffins mingles with the scent of coffee. The silence is broken by the sharp, vibrating ring of Taeyong's phone, which has just returned. He freezes halfway to the table, his face instantly turning stony. He takes out his phone, stares at the screen, and his eyes narrow. Speak, he says, stepping aside. They listen to him in silence. He doesn't ask any questions, only nods occasionally. His gaze becomes cold and sharp, like a blade. Lian watches as her mother stops smiling and sets her cup down on the table with a soft thud. The warm, safe atmosphere of the kitchen evaporates in an instant, as if it had never been there. Taeyong hangs up. He turns to face them. His eyes meet Nia's, and a silent sentence passes between them. Then he looks at Lian. His gaze no longer holds the challenge it had this morning. There's a clear, heavy determination there now. The information has been confirmed, he says quietly. Everything is exactly as we thought. Now we know for sure. He doesn't say what comes next, but from the way he stands, from the way his fists are clenched, Lian understands. The pause is over. Something is beginning. And this time, she's not just a witness. She's part of this silence before the fight.